Hello, welcome back to Foos Entertainment for my review of 1995's Lord of Illusions on 4K. All right. Well, I know we've been doing a lot of freaking movies, and which I've been giving 4 stars to lately. Will this be 4 stars too? Well, we shall see. We'll be talking about the plot of the film, the world's opinion of the film, my opinion of the film, and give the film a ranking. All right. From the best-selling author and celebrated director Clive Barker, Candyman Nightbreed, comes a supernatural thriller that rips apart the boundaries between sanity and madness, and between the art of illusion and the terrifying forces of magic. Harry Delmar, Scott Bakula, Quantum Leap, is a private detective on a seemingly routine investigation in Los Angeles, but Harry gets more than he bargained for when he encounters a illusionist performer played by Kevin J. O'Connor, Deep Rising, whose amazing illusions capture the world. But are they really just illusions? Harry isn't so sure as he is thrust into a nightmare of murder and deception from the dark beyond. Franken Jensen, GoldenEye X-Men, also stars in this thrilling supernatural mystery. Barker's director's cut is now presented in ultra high definition with all new special features. Okay, the world's opinion of Lord of Illusions. There's 2 parks on this. All right, there's a park of people that basically that just watch horror films that have mixed opinions of Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions. Then you have the other end, which are people that are fans of Clive Barker. Okay, so the people that are fans of Clive Barker, a lot of them have always said that this is his best movie. At the time this movie came out, yes, I would agree with you. But with this movie's living on in physical media since then, and getting kind of better versions and stuff, I would say no. Or do I? I'm basing this off of the rules' opinion, their opinion. Now let's go on to my opinion. I have a hard time saying that this is his best movie, but best movie and best directed film, I would say, are 2 different things. I would say it is a Clive Barker's best movie. I would still have to give that to the director's cut of Nightbreed. I still think that's his best movie, and if it's not that, it's definitely Hellraiser. However, in terms of best directed movie, yes, I would say that Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions is his best directed movie. What do I like about the film? What I like about the film is there's not many characters that I relate to on an intelligent and philosophical level. When it comes to the character of Harry Delmar, played by Scott Bakula, it's like looking at me. Is it like, for the character, not for the way it looks like or anything like that. Just the character, his personality, how he goes about things, how he solves mysteries and stuff like that. I see a lot of me in that character. And I love it when I can do that. And when it comes to Clive Barker films, that doesn't happen often. Like, for example, there's only a little part of me I can actually see that relates to Pinhead and Elliot Spencer. When it comes to Aaron Boone and Nightbreed, for example, I don't really see much relation right at all with that character. Maybe I said I did when I reviewed it, but I'm seeing it now. I just don't. Um, take Bradley Cooper's character in Midnight Meat Train. I don't see a lot of relation to that character to me either. But when it comes to Harry DeMar, I see a lot of relation because a lot of what I do for a living is being an investigator. I investigate things. I'm kind of a detective. Not a real detective, I don't work for FBI or anything like that, but a lot of my duties at my job are to detect and investigate things. And you kind of lose yourself in your work a little bit, and your work kind of defines you a little. You got to find a way not to let it. What I find very interesting about the character of Harry DeMar is the fact that he's drawn to the dark. He's drawn to the dark forces, and the dark forces are drawn to him. And you take a private investigator, like basically taking a Samuel Spade character, which is exactly what Harry DeMar is, and you take that Samuel Spade-like noir detective, and you have him drawn to supernatural. You could in the great, weird, divine, macabre worlds that exist beyond ours, but also that supernatural world is attracted to him too, and that's cool. You see, it's not really, to me, what really sells the movie is all of that. Granted, you have that very crazy story of Nixon and and magic and illusion and all that stuff, but to me, the character of Harry DeMar is actually really what sells the movie. Now let's go on to a little trivia about the film. The character of Harry DeMar actually is a reoccurring kind of like protagonist character that shows up in several Clive Barker novels. Kind of call him, Clive Barker's, action hero or Clive Barker's protagonist that reappears in other works of literature, because Lord of Illusions is based off of a book. I would have loved to have seen Lord of Illusions become a bigger movie and be a blockbuster, which unfortunately it wasn't, because we had a missed opportunity because it wasn't a big hit. And that is a crossover between the world of Harry DeMar and his detective supernatural thriller stories. And there's lots of them. A crossover of that with Hellraiser crossover, because there's actually that happens in the books. In the books, ultimately Harry DeMar actually comes toe to toe with Pinhead, and he actually kills Pinhead. And considering how cool the character is in this movie, I would have loved to have seen, Scott Bakula's version of this character, or maybe another version of the character that might even be darker than Scott Bakula's version, to actually face off with Pinhead and use his intelligence and his investigative and detective skills and his kind of, had the ability to embrace, but also to pull back from the darkness, all that cool stuff, actually having that battle take place and having the outcome of it happen. But there's a lot of things I would have loved with the Hellraiser franchise too. Like for example, I would have loved to have seen Kirsty become the female Pinhead and go ahead and rip Elliot Spencer apart before sending him back to Earth in mortal form. I actually would have loved to have seen that, but we'll never get any of this. So the best you're ever going to get out of it is to start a Clive Barker novel collection. You can start by buying the 3 volumes of the Books of Blood, and then Hellbound Heart, and then go ahead and start buying all of the Harry Domar novels, and then reading the crossovers and stuff like that. Reading what happens after the story of Elliot Spencer with Kirsty as the princess of hell and stuff like that. Yeah, Kirsty Cotton, you heard me correctly, replaces the Prince of Hell, Pinhead, by becoming basically the Princess of Hell. That does happen. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens in the writings of Clive Barker, and if this film would have been successful, we would have seen more of that, and that's the real shame of this movie. Now, let's get this film a ranking. But also, let's just take about 15 seconds to just talk about one other thing: the difference between the theatrical cut and the director's cut. This is not as extensively different, like say Nightbreed was, to where you had like literally half of a freaking movie being put back in, making it as such a different movie to watch versus the theatrical studio cut. This didn't have much more put back in. There's some put back in, but it's not much. So, but it still kind of counts as this is the better cut of the film, because what is put back in adds to the story. And that's something that happens a lot with Clive Barker. It happened with Nightbreed, it happened with Lord of Illusions, it happened with Hellraiser, I believe it or not. The R-rated cut, we don't even have it R-rated cut anymore, you just have an unrated cut. It happened with Midnight Meat Train. The director's cut of that is very different from the theatrical cut. So is there the trend going on there? Now let's get the film ranking real quick. It may not be Clive Barker's best movie, it's his best directed movie, so that still counts for something. And I might add, I return to this movie a lot. So it gets 4 stars from me. To me, this is a perfect movie. You don't have to know about the mythology of the character of Harry Domar and his noir detective supernatural thrillers. You don't have to know about those. You don't have to know about his connection eventually to the Hellraiser franchise. You don't have to know any of that. You can just be a regular fan of horror films and want something uniquely interesting to watch, and you will actually have a good time. So yeah, it gets 4 stars. I think this is a perfect horror film. And it's a horror film, not a slasher. This is a horror film. Most of the films I've been reviewing are. this time around, I might add. That's kind of cool. All right, so that's all I gotta say about Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions. Who says check it out, and I will see you on my next review, which will happen very soon.